The Little Book of Talent by Daniel Coyle. Picture this: Wayne Gretzky, the greatest hockey player who ever lived, alone on the ice during practice. What do you imagine? Pure grace, flawless motion. Here's what his teammates actually saw: Wayne Gretzky falling down, toppling over like a kid learning to skate for the first time. The Great One, looking awkward, looking completely ridiculous. Sounds impossible, right? But this one weird image unlocks almost everything we've been told about talent. It's the secret that's been hiding in plain sight, and we're about to dive right into it. We're exploring a small book with a huge idea, The Little Book of Talent by Daniel Coyle. This isn't your typical self-help guide. It's more like a treasure map, written by a journalist who went on an incredible adventure. Coyle traveled the world, visiting what he calls talent hotbeds. These tiny, sometimes run-down places that somehow produce shocking numbers of world-class performers. He found a beat-up tennis club in Moscow that creates more top-ranked female players than the entire United States. He visited a humble music camp in the mountains where students make a year's worth of progress in just 7 weeks. He studied inner-city schools, vocal studios, and Olympic training centers. Everywhere he went, he wasn't searching for magic, he was looking for patterns. And boy, did he find them. What he discovered flips the script on everything we've been taught. That whole idea that talent is a gift you're either born with or not, turns out it's a myth. Coyle found that talent isn't something you inherit. It's something you grow, something you build, something you forge through specific actions. This little book has quietly become essential reading for coaches, teachers, parents, and anyone looking to get better at, well, anything. It's sold hundreds of thousands of copies, not because of fancy marketing, but because the 52 tips inside actually work. They're simple, practical, and grounded in the latest science of how our brains build skills. So here's what I want you to do. Forget everything you think you know about your own potential. Forget those times you tried something and gave up because you weren't a natural. Forget the idea that some people just get lucky. By the end of our time together, you'll understand the 3 core ingredients that every world-class performer uses to build incredible skills. You'll have a new owner's manual for your brain, and you'll see that the path to excellence isn't about genius. It's about habits you can start building today. This isn't about becoming Wayne Gretzky overnight. It's about understanding why he was willing to fall and how you can use that same principle to rise. Let's start with something simple but powerful, a feeling that Daniel Coyle calls ignition. Ignition is that moment when you see someone do something extraordinary, and a quiet voice whispers in your mind, "I could be them." It's not envy. It's a spark of connection. This is where all talent truly begins. For centuries, we've believed that talent starts with our genes. But Coyle's research in these talent hotbeds showed him something different. Talent begins with a brief, powerful encounter that links your identity to a high-performing person or group. Think about this. In 1997, there were 0 South Korean golfers on the women's professional tour. Today, there are over 40. Winning about a third of all events. What happened? One golfer, Se Pak, won 2 major tournaments in 1998. In that moment, she became a vision of the future for thousands of young girls back home. They saw her and felt that spark. As one of them said, "If she can do it, why can't I?" This is the first lesson. You have to stare at who you want to become. Coyle calls this filling your windshield. The key to igniting your motivation is filling that windshield with vivid images of your future self. It's not about passive watching. It's about staring with intensity, the same way a hungry cat watches a bird, or a baby studies a parent's face. This isn't just a nice idea, it's backed by science. Studies show that even a brief connection to a role model can dramatically increase your unconscious motivation. In one experiment, simply telling people they shared a birthday with a successful mathematician made them work 62% harder on difficult math problems. Your brain sees the connection and says, that person is like me, their success is possible for me. So how do you do this? Find your heroes. Watch videos of them, not just for entertainment but for study. Before you practice, before you go to sleep, watch them. Don't just look at what they do. Try to feel it. You're engraving their skill onto your brain. This leads us to the second part. Once you have that spark, you need a blueprint. Inspiration alone isn't enough. You have to start building. And the best builders are also the best thieves. Coyle's third tip is steal without apology. We're often taught to be original, to find our own natural style. Coyle says that's nonsense. All improvement is about absorbing and applying new information, and the best information comes from top performers, so you steal it. This has a noble tradition. Steve Jobs famously stole the idea for the computer mouse from a research center. The Beatles stole the high woo sounds in their early hits from their idol, Little Richard. As Picasso said, good artists borrow, great artists steal. When you steal, don't just copy the general vibe, focus on specifics, the exact angle of a golfer's elbow, the precise pause a comedian takes before the punchline, the curve of a singer's lips as they hit a high note. Ask yourself 2 questions. What exactly are the critical moves here? And how do they perform them differently than I do? This process of staring and stealing helps you build a high-definition mental blueprint. But to use that blueprint, you need to understand what kind of structure you're building. This is one of the most practical ideas in the book. Coyle explains that every skill falls into one of 2 categories: hard skills or soft skills. Hard skills are about repeatable precision. They have one single ideal path. Think of a perfect golf swing, a gymnast's vault, or flawlessly playing a musical scale. The goal here is to be like a Swiss watch, reliable, exact, and automatic. For hard skills, you must work like a careful carpenter. You measure twice, cut once. You're slow, meticulous, and obsessed with errors. The first few attempts are crucial because they lay down the initial tracks in your brain. Like the first sled down a snowy hill, all future sleds tend to follow that groove, so you have to make that first groove perfect. Soft skills, on the other hand, are about flexibility. There isn't one right way, there are many. Think of a soccer player improvising an attack, a comedian working a crowd, or an entrepreneur navigating a tense negotiation. These skills are about recognizing patterns and making smart choices in constantly changing environments. The goal isn't to be a Swiss watch, it's to be adaptable and interactive. For soft skills, Coyle says you need to play like a skateboarder. You don't build these skills by being careful and slow. You build them by playing, exploring, and experimenting in challenging environments. You try new tricks, you fall, you get back up, you try something else. You're aggressive, curious, and not afraid of mistakes. This is why Brazilian soccer players are so creative. Many grew up playing futebol de salão, soccer, in a tiny room. The small court forces players to make thousands of quick decisions and touches. It's a laboratory for improvisation. Most talents, of course, are a mix of both. A quarterback needs the hard skill of a perfect spiral and the soft skill of reading a defense. A musician needs the hard skill of finger placement and the soft skill of emotional interpretation. Coyle gives us one crucial piece of advice here. Always honor the hard skills first. They're the trunk of the tree. The soft skills are the branches. Build the trunk first, and the branches will have a solid foundation to grow from. So you've found your inspiration. You've started stealing from the best. You understand whether you're building a hard or soft skill. Now comes the part where most people get stuck: the practice. This is the heart of the Little Book of Talent. Coyle argues that people in talent hotbeds have a completely different relationship with practice. For most of us, practice is a chore. It's the boring stuff we do before the fun part, the game, the performance. But for world-class performers, practice is the game. It's the center of their world. The right kind of practice is called deep practice. And the key to deep practice is finding a very specific place called the sweet spot. Imagine 3 zones of learning. The first is the comfort zone. Things feel easy, effortless. You're doing something you already know how to do. Your success rate is high, maybe 80% or more. The problem? You're not learning much here. The third is the survival zone. You're completely overwhelmed, thrashing, guessing, just trying to stay afloat. Your success rate is below 50%. You're not learning here either because you're just confused. The magic happens in the middle, the sweet spot. Here, you feel frustration, difficulty, and intense alertness to your errors. You're fully engaged in struggle. You're stretching with everything you've got for a goal that's just barely out of reach. You brush it with your fingertips, fail, and then reach again. Your success rate is somewhere between 50 and 80%. This feeling of struggle isn't a sign you're failing. It's a biological necessity. It's the sensation of your brain building new connections. As one psychologist calls it, it's desirable difficulty. Coyle tells a fantastic story about a 13-year-old clarinet player named Clarissa. She was perfectly average. But one day, researchers watched her practice and saw something remarkable. In 5 minutes, Clarissa accomplished what would normally take her a month. Here's what she did. She played a few notes of a new song, made a mistake, and immediately froze. She didn't just plow ahead, she stopped. She stared at the music sheet. She hummed the notes to herself. She silently rehearsed the finger movements. Then she started again. She got a little farther, made another mistake, and stopped again. Back to the start. In those 5 minutes, every single time she made an error, she sensed it and fixed it. She was operating right on the edge of her ability, in her sweet spot. She wasn't just playing the clarinet. She was building her brain. This is the central engine of skill development. And the book is packed with practical tips on how to find and live in this sweet spot. One of the simplest is to slow it down. Super slow practice acts like a magnifying glass, allowing you to see your mistakes with perfect clarity. Ben Hogan, one of the greatest golfers ever, used to practice his swing so slowly that when the club finally made contact, the ball would only move about an inch. The saying goes, it's not how fast you can do it, it's how slowly you can do it correctly. Another technique is to break every move down into chunks. Every skill is built from smaller pieces. You master one tiny chunk, then another, then start connecting them. Musicians at one elite camp literally cut up their sheet music into small sections, put the pieces in a hat, and practice each one randomly. Only after they've mastered the individual chunks do they put the song back together. See the whole thing, break it down, put it back together, repeat. And this brings us back to Wayne Gretzky falling on the ice. He was so good that to find his sweet spot, he had to push himself to the absolute limits of balance and control. He had to risk looking stupid. This is tip 5. Be willing to be stupid. Reaching, failing, and reaching again is the only way the brain grows. In the world of talent, mistakes aren't failures. They're guideposts. They're the information you use to get better. But deep practice isn't just about struggle. It's also about how you frame that struggle. Coyle suggests you stop doing drills and instead play small, addictive games. The word drill sounds like drudgery, but game sounds like fun. If you can count it, you can turn it into a game. Instead of just playing a guitar chord over and over, count how many times you can play it perfectly in a row. Try to beat yesterday's score. This simple shift in mindset keeps you engaged and motivated. And this brings us to the final crucial part, sustaining your progress. Getting started is one thing, but how do you keep going when you hit a wall, when motivation fades, or when progress slows to a crawl? The first rule is to embrace repetition. Repetition has a bad reputation. We think of it as boring, but Coyle argues this is a huge misunderstanding. Repetition is the single most powerful tool we have for improving skills. Why? because of a substance in our brain called myelin. Think of the wiring in your brain like electrical wires. Myelin is the rubber insulation that wraps around those wires. The more you fire a particular circuit, the more you repeat an action, the more layers of myelin your brain adds to that wire. And the more myelin you have, the faster, stronger, and more accurate the signal becomes. Practice doesn't just make perfect. Practice makes myelin, and myelin makes perfect. When Navy SEAL Team 6 prepared for the raid on Osama bin Laden's compound, they didn't just talk about it. They built full-scale replicas of the compound and rehearsed the mission dozens and dozens of times under all kinds of conditions. They were using repetition to build the high-speed brain circuits they'd need for the real thing. As martial arts legend Bruce Lee said, "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times." To embrace repetition, you need to adopt what Coyle calls a blue-collar mindset. Top performers don't wait for inspiration to strike. They get up and go to work, day in and day out, whether they feel like it or not. The artist Chuck Close said it best: "Inspiration is for amateurs." You also need to be patient. Talent grows slowly. Coyle shares a beautiful saying he heard at the Moscow Tennis Club: "Think like a gardener, work like a carpenter." A gardener is patient. They plant a seed and tend to it, trusting the process of growth without yanking it up every day to see if it's working. A carpenter is methodical. They work steadily, knowing that each small, precise piece they cut will eventually connect to a larger, beautiful whole. And finally, one of the most surprising and useful tips in the entire book for sustaining progress is Tip 51. Keep your big goals secret. This sounds completely counterintuitive. We're always told to share our goals to create accountability. But research from New York University found the exact opposite. When you announce your big goals to others, it creates a premature sense of accomplishment. Your brain gets a little dopamine hit, as if you've already done the work, and as a result, your motivation to actually do the work drops. In the study, people who announced their goals quit significantly earlier than those who kept quiet. The ones who stayed silent remained hungry. So when you set out to build a new skill, hold that big dream close to your heart. Let it be your private fuel source. Don't talk about it. Work towards it. Let your results speak for themselves. From the spark of ignition to the careful work of the carpenter, from the struggle of the sweet spot to the patient wisdom of the gardener, the Little Book of Talent gives us a new way of seeing ourselves. It tells us that the distance between who we are and who we want to be isn't a matter of luck or genetics. It's a matter of practice. Small, smart actions repeated over time. That's the real secret. That's how talent is built. As we wrap up our journey through the Little Book of Talent, I want to leave you with a final thought on why this small book has such a big impact. In a world obsessed with overnight success, with viral sensations and life hacks, Daniel Coyle's message is a grounding, powerful, and deeply hopeful reminder of a timeless truth. Mastery is a slow, steady, and beautiful process. The most profound lesson here isn't just one of the 52 tips. It's the underlying philosophy that connects them all. Your ability is not fixed. It's not a stone tablet that defines you. It's a living, growing thing. And you are its caretaker. You're the gardener and the carpenter of your own skills. This is an incredibly liberating idea, especially when you're young. It's easy to look at the world and feel like everyone else has already figured it out. You see people who seem to be naturals at sports, at math, at art, and it's tempting to think, well, I guess I just don't have that. Coyle's work is a direct challenge to that voice of doubt. He shows us, through compelling stories and clear science, that the naturals are almost always the ones who started earlier, practiced smarter, and embraced the struggle more willingly. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school varsity team. Walt Disney was fired from an early job for lacking imagination. Their talent wasn't a gift. It was a victory won through thousands of hours of deep practice. So how can you start applying this today? Let's make it simple. First, just for this week, pick one skill you want to improve. Then find your role model. Go on YouTube, find a video of someone brilliant at that skill, and just stare. For 15 minutes a day, don't just watch. Try to feel what they're doing. This is how you create the spark of ignition. Second, when you practice that skill, look for the struggle. Don't avoid it. Seek out that feeling of almost. Find the edge of your ability and just hang out there for 5 minutes. Don't worry about success. Worry about the reach. That's you, in your sweet spot, building your brain. And third, reframe your mistakes. The next time you mess up, pause. Instead of feeling frustration, feel curiosity. Say to yourself, okay, that's interesting. What information is this mistake giving me? Treat it like a clue on a treasure map, guiding you toward the right move. This book is small, but its message is vast. It's a quiet rebellion against the myth of innate talent, and an invitation to see yourself and your potential in a new light. It reminds us that excellence is not an act, but a habit, and it's a habit available to every single one of us. That was a summary of The Little Book of Talent by Daniel Coyle. We've touched on the core ideas today, but a summary is like looking at a map of a beautiful country. The real adventure begins when you decide to take the journey yourself. There's a certain magic in letting an author's words wash over you, in finding that one story or that one sentence that lands at just the right moment. This summary is your map to help you decide if this is a journey worth taking. If any of these ideas have sparked something in you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning a few tips. It's about fundamentally changing your relationship with the process of getting better, and that's an experience that can last a lifetime. You can find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable, please take a moment to click that like button and subscribe to the channel. It's a small click for you, but it means the world to us, and it ensures you won't miss our next deep dive into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and keep growing together.